You're listening to the Vacation Rental Key with T&T, the podcast for vacation rental managers by vacation rental managers. I'm Tim Cafferty, and I manage two companies, one in Virginia and one in North Carolina. And I'm one of the two T's.
And I'm the other T, Tiffany Edwards, born and raised in the vacation rental business. I help manage our family businesses from Key West all the way to Kauai.
In the next 30 minutes, we're going to give you our keys to success in the vacation rental business. Welcome back to the Vacation Rental Key. I'm Tim, and across the virtual desk, as always, is Tiffany. How's the world treating you today?
You know, up and down, and I'm just really talking about the weather more than anything. Pretty good overall. Pretty good getting ready for season.
Yep. Well, today we are diving into a topic that can make or break a long-term relationship with a property owner, the onboarding process. I was listening to some old editions of the Vacation Rental Managers podcast with Sarah and T, and specifically the deep dive into onboarding, which is episode 41. And it sparked some thoughts on if those things still apply and what we can do better. It was our most popular podcast in history. It was 7 years ago. The episode dropped in 2019. So I thought we could share the big items from that discussion with you today.
Yeah, I love this. This is something everyone always asks about, Tim. And in that podcast, you and Sarah covered 12 points in the owner onboarding process. And we're going to revisit those points today, trying to do it within a 25 to 30 minute time frame. So whatever your commute is. But one thing I really liked about what you said is to schedule that time face to face where you can meet with the owner in person, go over some of these things. You know, don't do it over Zoom. You need to really make sure that you solidify that relationship on one-on-one and plan out that hour so that you can cover all of the stuff that we are going to share with you today.
Yeah, some of these things can be really uncomfortable. You want their attention. You want a checklist to make sure you covered everything, and you want agreement on policies and expectations. Many times the contract is signed and it's go time. Let's go to the website. Let's get that property live. Let's get some bookings. They're busy. You're busy. We'll get to that other stuff later. But as my friend Steve Schwab says, wait a minute. We need to get down to the paperwork, of course, but you also need to get this relational stuff going as well. And so onboarding is not just about the paperwork. It's a sales to service handoff. And depending on your company structure, you may do it all, or you might have an owner recruiter. You want that handoff to be seamless and not have that salesperson involved 3 years down the road when an issue arises. Not one of our 12 points, but something you need to be hyper aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, like you said, those hard conversations are so much better person to person, building up that relationship early on and letting that owner know that you care and that they're important and this is a partnership. And a lot of this stuff is so much better through a conversation and answering those questions than to send a robotic email.
Yep.
So without further ado, let's get into our first point, Tim.
Wait a minute. One more ado. Wait a minute. One more ado. I need to wish you happy anniversary, Tiffany. Today is 1 year ago we started this podcast. So congratulations. We've made it through 26 episodes and we venture into season 2 now. And we're doing it with a bang on these 12. So good work. So number 1 on our list of 12 is this is a business. I'm going to quote this famous vacation rental philosopher, Stephen Craig, who says, when you're talking to a property owner, you have opened a business. This is now a commercial domicile the moment you took the first dollar. It is not your home any longer. If you notice, side note, in this podcast, I never say the word home. It's not your oldest daughter's room. It's bedroom number 3. We have entered into a partnership with each other and we want success. Important to have them understand and acknowledge that partnership mentality. You provide me the product. I market and care for the product.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I always try to stay away from the commercial side, more so from a regulation perspective.
Sure.
But that is 100% the way that people need to think about it as an asset. So there are a lot of stocks that I've invested in that I don't go to McDonald's. I don't drink Coca-Cola, but I'm going to invest in those things, right? You need to look at it as how does this property work for you and a long-term goals that you have. And so making sure that you have that conversation with individuals that, you know, this isn't where we're going. You know, you may have some good memories here, but you're really creating it for a long-term goal. And some of our other points are going to draw back into this as well.
So one of the things we need to think about is setting realistic timelines at contract signing too. When will it be live on the website? Not 48 hours. You won't be here when our photographer comes to take pictures. What are you doing to market the property and what results are realistic in the first few months, in the first few years? Save yourself some heartache and bring this up ASAP.
And again, this is why this is such an important conversation. So sometimes they not dictate that they want to be there for the pictures, but they know what they want in the pictures. You need to have the conversation of this is what guests want. This is what has proven to be successful. Present those things in a proactive way, but also in making sure too. And I've had this issue a lot, Tim. You may not have had this issue, but we have a lot of our owner development that set unrealistic expectations of what the onboarding and going live would be. And they don't have a hand in actually making that happen. And so making sure that we communicate within our staff. So, for example, just recently we onboarded about 40 properties in one of our companies, and it was during the holidays, it was during conference season. So, our owner development overpromised on when all of these properties were going live instead of thinking what the time frame is, what everyone's bandwidth is, and the holidays and having some of those different challenges and difficulties. So really make sure that your team is communicating of what you realistically can provide in that onboarding process, because this is your first impression and those owners are very excited to get live on your site.
Great point. I had an owner recruiter, if you will, and she was happy to give them her cell phone number. And 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, they were still calling her about, well, what do we do about this? And what do we do about that? You need to make sure those people get out of the picture as soon as possible and keep them in their lane. So, another thing you might think about as you're putting this mindset of it being a business is making sure you allow time to talk about standard property appearance. Personal items should be removed. Take out the pictures of the family, the excess decor, the tchotchkes all over the place. Talk about bedding standards. Do you have standard bedding? No extra pillows in the closet, the cluttered closets, removing the baby equipment for your own good. So it's a liability risk. Bathroom standards. No bath mats or bathroom rugs, no carpeted toilet seat covers, which I saw in a picture a few days ago. Kitchen standards. Do you have a drip coffee maker, a Keurig, both electric can openers? How about cooking ingredients? Do you allow oil and spices? And what pans should be present as well? And what par level for glasses? All this, just cover it while you can.
Yeah, I like having that list ready and available, going through that list, think highlight, underline what the financial expectation is for some of these. But the more that you standardize it for your business, the more it becomes an asset as opposed to someone's personal home. Because if the bedding is different, right, they're not coming into it thinking it is just theirs. They're looking at it from a more of a commercial perspective, but also less is more for me. And I try to phrase it when speaking with owners that these are less expenses that you will have to have for replacement costs in the future. It looks cleaner. It's less that you'll have to, like I said, replace. So I think that those things, the way you communicate it is very key. And just also remember, unfortunately, people treat things a little bit differently when they're on vacation. They're a little bit looser. They're a little bit freer. So think of it as a rental car. Not everyone's going the speed limit or taking those curbs slowly in a rental car. Some of
Yeah.
those conversations of what realistic expectations are on making sure that you have to replace some of these items.
We'll get to more of that in a moment, but still under this number one, I think you also should set parameters about what you are going to provide them in terms of communication. Are you going to do a newsletter on a monthly, quarterly, or semi-annual basis? I'm going to call you X times per year or set up a Calendly for you to meet with me. And once the owner is in the program, here's a pro tip. Give them a call and go over their first statement to ensure they understand what they read each month. Because the statements that come out of some of these property management software seems like you need a glossary to figure out what some of the initials are and how it flows. And wait a minute, I have this much rent, but I'm only getting this amount. It can really save you a lot of heartache if you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you set goals, a lot of our owners, we set goals. So we set cadence and calendar reminders to set in and chat with them about what some of those goals are and what's going on in the marketplace. Just giving them information is very helpful outside of just a newsletter. which Tim is so fabulous about doing every month.
Okay, so that's number 1. It's not your home. Got that? Number 2, I know this is a special place in your heart. Communication rules. That infamous 7 a.m. call. And it wasn't a time zone confusion either. It was just convenient for them to call at 7 o'clock. Hey, next time, can you call maybe after 9? That's an awkward moment to have that conversation. But intrusion on personal time is not a recipe for success. It's a recipe for burnout. So everybody deserves time off. There are some who do not recognize boundaries, but let them know. I'll get back to you the same day or whatever. Maybe you have some email protocol. You're out of the office and the reply sets up to contact this person instead. Or maybe you have a common mailbox where a number of people will look at that and they'll get immediate response. But the whole cell phone number, giving it out. I personally do not give out my cell phone number because I had an experience that caused me not to ever do it again. But I'm not sure how others feel about it.
Yeah, you make the mistake once. So I actually am very strong on not giving out cell phone numbers unless it is particular owners, super whales, like we call them, that need a little bit more hand holding, but help you put bread on the table. But outside of that, and really it's only our absolute senior people or Ben or myself who would get those cell phone numbers. The other part of it too is that I want to own the cell phone number. I want to own the communication. I want to own the contact list. So if for some reason someone leaves you and it's their cell phone that they take with them and they don't have a company phone, you've lost out on that. But also going back to setting expectations, my kids' school said this best, and the teachers. We're working, we have several different kids, hundreds of kids, whatever that may be throughout the day. We will get back to you in 24 hours. But right now we are essentially out in the field. We're paying attention to the children, but we have our, office hours, and we will get back to you. And it is a priority, but just managing what those expectations are is huge, and having that communication. I will also say that I try to protect our team as much as possible of having that 9 to 5. So making sure that any of your people know that they don't have to take those calls. They're not going to lose their job because of it, and that we do expect them to have time with their family. But again, for some of those whales, like tonight, I have a call at 7 p.m. because one of our really, really big owners, that's the only time he can give me.
Mhm.
But that isn't an expectation I put on any of our other team members.
Sure. Make sure they know that they're special if you do that. The other thing, I don't want to say that you should go dark. There should be some method that they can get in touch with someone in the company when there's an emergency or what have you, but not necessarily you at all times.
And I need to probably add into that too. Emergencies are obviously something different, but if there is an owner that you are hitting a frustration or boiling point, we certainly don't want them to sit and stew. So that's why we have a designated individual that's high level who can call. But again, it's from an office phone number, not necessarily their cell.
Yeah, we call it the bat phone. We
Yes.
always have Commissioner Gordon available at any given time. So, number 3 on our list of 12 is to get to the ideal owner mindset. Okay. I think we've set that up a little bit. We've given you 2 qualifiers for that ideal mindset already, but look for those key signs during your meeting and try to redirect. Like if they say, it's just a rental, who cares? Well, the guests care. You will find out who gets it and who doesn't. And you, I hope, will tell them what you get out of it is what you put into it. Look for those owners who are eager to get reports on reviews and how the property is performing, those comments from guests, asking how they can improve their property. House next door did such and such. What should I do to be at that level? Should I think about putting in this or putting in that? That's a win. You got a winner there, baby, if you got it going on.
Yeah, and I think this year is going to be that differentiator. So if some of those owners haven't shown their true colors, they will this year, because numbers are going to look a little bit different for that mid-market. So really making sure that you also have answers ready to provide them. And I will say for us, one of the greatest things we have done, and I learned this at a conference, was to use ChatGPT to show pictures for options. So when those owners do make those questions about what should we be upgrading, and you have an answer ready and available of what the comps are, and then use ChatGPT to show them in a picture what their change could be and what little renovation. So make sure that you treat those owners well and that you have answers ready and available for them, because those are good ones to keep.
Love it. Just as long as they don't say, "Hey, can we put that Chat GPT picture on the website? That
No.
looks really good. I want that." So, all right, what do we have as number 4 here, Tiff?
So number 4, it's so important to sit down with an individual one-on-one and to develop that relationship because you need to convey to them that it is not always going to be a perfect experience. You're going to provide great service, excellent service. You're going to have high standards and you're going to treat your property so well that you won't even know it's rented. Don't say that. Don't you dare say that. What you need to make sure is that you don't have cameras in the houses. Legally, you're not allowed to have cameras in the houses. Maybe that's another one we should add into the list.
Creepy.
We don't have security guards, and nor should we, right? We do a great job of vetting a lot of our guests, but every once in a while there could be one or two that slip through, and we have protocols in place. So if there is a mistake that's made on the guest side or on our side, we'll be quick to react and to recover. But it is a partnership together that you both will walk through.
Yep. We're adults. We rent to adults. Get into the mindset of point number 1 and run it accordingly. We police the guests as needed, but things are going to happen. One of my property owners came up with this mantra. I love it. I've said it before. Every time they come to the property, they pause at the front door, they put their key code in, and before they turn the handle, they say, "I have made good money on this property." And then they open the door. Get into that mindset. That's what you need. Stuff's going to just happen. So that leads us into number 5. Things are going to move. My son used one of my rental properties recently. He moved a chair from the bedroom to the living room because he needed an extra seat. The cleaner saw it and said, "That looks good." So I walked in and said, "Who thought this chair goes here?" So somebody said once that people do 3 things when they go on vacation at the beach. They go to the beach, they go shopping in the local stores, and they move furniture. That's what happens. I don't know. Kitchen inventory will disappear as well. Maybe you should suggest they strike up a friendship with their neighbor because there's a story that Sarah Bradford told about this neighbor who introduced themselves next door and they went over for dinner and the lady was going through the cabinet. She goes, "I have these plates with this blue rim on them." And she goes, "Those are mine." Evidently the guests strike up friendships too at the beach or at the ski slope or whatever. And they go over to this house and have dinner. They bring the dishes and glasses over to make sure we have enough. And they forget to bring them back. Happens all the time. So stuff just disappears in the ethos. Plan on it now and be prepared to restock every year.
Yeah, we've had the same thing. I'll never forget when an owner lost their mind because we replaced lamps and they weren't the exact same lamps that they had. And this wasn't high-end luxury, perfectly matched, right? They were like fish lamps or something very, very silly. And we found something comparable. But that owner didn't really have that onboarding conversation to say, "Hey, this isn't essential to a guest coming in. These things move, these things happen." And if there's something that's really important for that owner to have, utilize the owner closet and they can bring their own key to open it up and close it back up.
Now, this next one, I don't think I'm overreacting to this. Owners just don't think about this. No pets in no pet houses. So Fido's part of their family, but they don't know Brutus, who's a family member of the guests who are coming in. So we don't want any pets in our house. Well, if they have pets, that's not only not fair, it can be a matter of health as well. People have very serious allergies these days. Peanut allergy. Remember, can't serve peanuts on a plane because there's one person in 34C that has a allergic reaction. People are just unforgiving on this. They have a low tolerance for allergies and pet hair and dander. So if you see a pet when you visit the owner, it's a great opportunity for you to talk about this and potentially maybe get them to accept pets in the property, which, by the way, could mean more money for you, Mr. Owner.
Even to add on to that, making sure owners understand legally you're required to allow a designated service animal into the home. And so you need to make sure those owners, if they are absolutely no, 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 that they understand that this might come up.
Number 7, I'm going to let you take promoting stuff. How about that?
Oh my gosh, this is so important. We are so terrible because we get so busy within our business that we do not promote all of the services that we provide and what we do unique to anyone else. But Tim, you've said this many times before. We help with the pool, spa service, landscaping, carpet cleaning, anything that we watch or help schedule, ultimately it will fall on our laps if something goes wrong. So making sure that you communicate with the owners that we've got preferred vendors, we can help manage some of these because they're not necessarily going to know Ned who came over to clean the pool, but they're going to know when the guest complained because the pool wasn't clean and there was a discount and we were the ones who were supposed to inspect that. So making sure that you market is really important. One of the things I also like to market is our longevity of our employees. For all of our companies, we have people who have been there for, 10, 15, 20 years. My mom's had people for 35 plus years. So our owners who come in, they're going to be working with some of the exact same names and people for a long period of time. And that's really important to mention.
So everybody note that Tiffany does not promote Ned's pool service. That's important. But yeah, we are accountable. They won't remember Ned, but they will remember you in a guest review, right? That Ned didn't do his job. But the point here is what we provide is good value. There's no coordination misunderstandings with outside vendors. There's no stress. And by the way, if you have your people, if you offer this kind of service, if you have your people there, you have an extra set of trained eyes at the property looking out for Mr. Owner in case guests are not doing what they're supposed to do. Many times we can also offer services below market rates because we don't have the extra overhead that an outside company has. And this also can extend to like trash collection services and internet services and things like that, where you can bulk buy and then resell. And it's a great opportunity across the board. So promote your services. All right. Now, number 8 sounds a little odd to talk about at the time of meeting, but do it. They've just purchased the property, but have the discussion about what happens when they sell the property to make sure there's no confusion on that. What happens if the market heats up like it did in 2021 and they get an offer that they can't refuse? Well, the buyer is going to be obligated to the bookings, Mr. Owner. And they also may be obligated to me because there's contingency agreements all around that include the buyer must continue with the rental agency in some states, or there might be a huge cancellation penalty. Make sure they're aware of that. Bottom line is bookings are going to be honored if you sell the house. What else needs to be brought up? Maybe distribution of money may change when a property is listed for sale. Communication with the sales agent and the paperwork there. Put all that stuff in your contract if you can as well, because they will not remember this conversation, but it is important to have right off the bat.
This again, highlight, underline. I can't right now, I'm dealing with this on multiple levels. Go back to our last episode of our rental management agreement. You need to make sure that you have language in there that helps address this. When you have this conversation on onboarding, that you reference it from the rental management agreement. There is just so much on the line. And especially because when there is a sale, it tends to move fast. You need to have a process in place. And that owner, as soon as you find out that it's for sale, then you need to make sure everyone on your team. The other part is I like to have notes on there. So if it is for sale, any of the maintenance. So if there's very large maintenance work or items that we're making sure we're getting paid for that right away. So it's not sold and then we're having to chase an owner. It's being closed out or we're waiting on invoices. This is really, really important. So making sure you have it in the rental management agreement and that you're having the conversation with the owner. And a lot of times you're required by state statute for a lot of the process of these reservations.
Love it. She's on a roll. So I'll let her take number 9 here as well. Another important one.
Yeah, rate setting. So making sure again that you understand when an owner has a conversation with you, how involved they are going to want to be in that rate setting and how and when you will use it. So, and I know for us, one of the biggest conversations we have had to have is, if they have an absolute minimum that they want, that they do not go lower than that. When we do revenue management, all of our companies we use Beyond. We have a revenue manager who is in there daily. But we've had to communicate a lot with owners of what a minimum and what a base is. So we have a base rent and we can fluctuate from that base, increase or decrease. And then we have a minimum as well. And so really having a conversation with those owners, educating them on how we move through the revenue, but also that ultimately within our businesses, we're the ones who dictate that because we're the ones who are in the technology. We understand the comps. We're looking at it day to day. So we have a better understanding than than some of those owners.
I know some of our listeners have smaller operations and maybe they've taken a few listings of properties that the owner only wants to rent a certain time. And they say, I don't want to change rates because if it doesn't rent, I'll just use it. If this comes up, are you really aligned? Do you have that business partnership? I have a vested interest in being sure your property, Mr. or Mrs. Property Owner, gets rented for the most it can for as much as it can be rented. That is my philosophy. Make sure you probably have already had this discussion before contract signing because people are very hyper aware of this, but it is an important aspect. So we'll move into number 10 now as we're winding down. This one's critical as well. King time. When will you use it, Mr. and Mrs. Owner? In my annual agreement on rates, I recommend that the owner put any possible time you want the property on the agreement right there in writing, because we can always cancel it later. Pro tip, send out a reminder a few weeks in advance about the upcoming owner use because they'll say, oh, I forgot I reserved next week. Can you rent it? Or the infamous one on this category, you know, I always take July 4th week. I can't believe you rented that. Or on ski resort areas, hey, I forgot to reserve Christmas week. Can you just go ahead and move those guests? Oh my, no guest moves. The property should always be available for rental when it's not on block. Speaking of which, little sidelight, we're getting into the spring season here, mid-March here. March Madness is on us. We've checked 86 properties in the last month who had arrivals coming. Want to take a guess at how many of those were ready, Tiffany, for rental?
All of them.
Zero after owner use. Oh yeah, it's good to go. Don't mind my stuff that's in the way. Boy, make sure you do those pre-checks, folks. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, that's always their mindset that it's perfectly left with them, right? So
Right.
their tchotchkes are still left out. All of the things that
Mhm.
are important to them still left out. All of the refrigerator, they've got plenty of food still left in there for everyone. The other thing that I like to try to do too, because when I was first starting out back, really early on when my mom had me actually checking people in the front desk when I was 13 years old, is we always had an issue of a surprise friend that would come into town, right? So the owner's child just decided to add on 2 days and driving through and what do you mean it's not on there? And so I've had all those difficult conversations because sometimes it's not necessarily the owner, it's their family members that just last
Mhm.
minute want to add in some time. So having that conversation with their owners is important. But also at the end of the year, we like to try to do reviews of how often the owner actually used the property. Is it helping or meeting your expectations as a company to have them on the property? Are they overusing it? Do you need to have another conversation of what time frame that maybe they need to actually pivot on what their expectation and revenue is? But then also I like to have what they would have potentially earned had they not used the home as many times or no property
Thank
as
you.
many nights as they did.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I always think of the story about the property owner who came down and found the property a mess. You're renting this house without my approval. I cannot believe what's going on here. So we went and read the lock. And we read the lock and we're like, well, sir, we've not been in your property, but I see your owner code has been used 14 times over the last 2 months. Because that's impossible. The only people to have that is myself, my wife, and my son who's in college. I'll get right back to you. His son was coming down from the University of Virginia on the weekends with his buddies without his parents knowing about it.
Mm.
Yeah, that was a tough conversation for him, but hey, we were good. All right, we've got to pick up the pace. We got two more
Yep.
here. We're running out of time. Number 11 on our list of 12 is cleaning fees. This is what we charge for a departure cleaning. No, you may not clean after yourself, or maybe you can, and I'll inspect. Talk about that because it's going to be awkward if they're bad cleaners, and most of them are. I do not profit from owner cleans. This is what a deep clean costs. We will do the deep clean. It takes about 40 hours or whatever. It's a good deal, and it's a requirement of our contract that this is done. We pay legitimate prices for legitimate work by cleaning professionals. And then talk about partial cleans. Do you allow less than a full cost on a clean? Well, I only used one bedroom and one bathroom, and we didn't cook at all when we were there. You ever heard that one too?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm starting to have, a little PTSD. But yes, I have heard, I've actually been in properties and witnessed a lot of that myself. But having that again, going back into your rental management contract of your requirements of your deep cleans and your expectations. And I feel like COVID really helped us a lot on saying, listen, we have to use these medical grade, we have to provide such cleanliness standards. And so having again a proactive conversation as to why you have an elevated cleaning service and that's what your expectation is, then it's more helpful for an owner to understand that they can't clean it or their college son can't clean it and his friends.
No, definitely not. Okay, number 12, I'm gonna let you take this one. I know this is a foreign territory to you. You have never had this happen to you, but maybe you can fake it here for the next 30 seconds or so.
Yeah, number 12, we're ending on a good one. The check in, check out process. So it is really not cool for an owner to stay until 2:30 when you have a 3 p.m. check-in during high season. And they say, oh, or I'll be there on 9 o'clock on a Saturday, and that's your big turn day. I'll just put some stuff over on the side while everyone else goes and cleans. And I will tell you, you're not setting yourself up well. There are going to be comments. They're in there watching the cleaners. They're going to be in your office Monday morning with potential complaints. It's just not a good process to have in place. So the cleaners do mind. Your stuff is everywhere. And we need to make sure that we want to have the owners enjoy and not have to think about any of the cleaning. We're charging the cleaning on there. The guest has been charged for the clean. Most likely the owner's charged on the back end. And so we want to make sure everything's perfect. And so to do that, we need that little extra time.
We are a professional organization, and professionalism in this case requires us to complete every task without distraction. Please schedule late flights for arrival and early flights for departure. You can talk about that right up front. You can even make a joke about, well, I think of one last summer. I had a owner who knew I was in the warehouse at 5 a.m. He called me at 6:15 a.m. Tim, I know I'm early, but you think I could get in the house? Oh my God, no, please. 6:15? Would you drive all night? Did you wake up at 2 and decide I need to go to the beach? Ah, just make sure you give examples to your new owner so they say to themselves, I don't want to be that guy. You can't cure this, but at least you can put them on notice.
And again, it goes back to overly communicating. So we like to have a weekly review if we have any owner check-ins. And so making sure all of our maintenance is closed out. So any work orders are closed out, but then anyone else from a cleaning side knows that there are owners coming in. And then you can also reach out to the owners or see that you're coming in just to let you know there's someone checking out the same day. Do you have any idea of when you'll be coming in? And then having that conversation will be key to a better transition and a check-in process for them.
So that's our list, a reprise of a podcast from 2019, but I think every point is still important today. Bottom line is it's better to have a hard conversation during onboarding than a breakup conversation 6 months later. So let's quickly review the 12 points we laid out to you today so you make sure you wrote them down and you get your list together. Number one is this is a business. Let's run it that way.
Number two, communication rules. Not giving out cell phone numbers, but when are your office hours and how quickly can an owner expect to have a return phone call?
Number three, get to the ideal owner mindset. Look for those signs and make sure you are aligned from the start.
Number four, it's not going to be a perfect experience, but we're going to do everything that we can to provide high and excellent service for you.
Number five, things are going to move. I don't know if it's ghosts or tradition, but people just don't put things back where they belong.
Number six, going back to Fido, no pets in a no pet house.
Number seven, promote your service. You do it, it's good or better than anybody else, and I can do it for less and cause you less stress, Mr. Owner.
Number eight, setting up your rules and your process for when an owner sells their property. So if the property is sold, making sure you have a conversation of what happens in that case and putting it in your rental management agreement as well.
Speaking of setting stuff up, rate setting is number 9. I'm going to do that for you, Mr. Owner. Don't you worry your little head.
Number 10, blocking time, making sure that they block out as much time as they want and then follow up with them to make sure that they are still coming in and not over exceeding the expectation of what that time is if this property is supposed to be a revenue producing asset for them.
Number 11 is cleaning fees. Once you tell them what the fee is, make sure they're sitting down, but tell them that this is a fair price and this is what we do for that money.
And last but not least, number 12, check in and check out process. Abide by that check in, check out times, and make sure that you have proactive communication with your owners if there is someone in before them, and then making sure that they understand what that check in and check out time is.
Okay, so that's our list. If you take away one thing today, let it be this. Onboarding is the foundation. Build it on sand and the house falls. Build it on a solid process and you've got a partner for life.
Well said, Tim. You only have one chance to make a first impression.
Yep. Thanks for joining us today on The Key. So long, everybody.
We'll see you next time.